When I was 7, I met someone I'll never forget. Back then, I was in grade 5, and school was the same every day: loud classrooms, noisy friends, kids running around. But there was one person who didn't fit in, a new transfer student. He never talked to anyone. He never smiled. He sat alone in the back, staring at his desk, almost like he wasn't really here. At first, I thought maybe he was just shy. I remember telling myself, if I don't talk to him, maybe no one will. So, I tried. The first time I said hi, he barely looked at me. His answers were short, like he didn't even want me there. But I kept going. Every day, I'd sit with him for a few minutes, just so he wouldn't feel alone. That's when I started to notice things. He never played sports. He never joined group work. Sometimes, I'd catch him just staring at the ceiling. And there was one time I saw his notebook. The whole page was filled with drawings of people. Except their faces were blank. I asked him where he lived. He said, far. Asked him his name. He just said, David. I asked about his parents. He said, they don't like visitors. That answer should have been enough. But I was a curious kid, sometimes too curious. One afternoon, when school ended, I decided to follow him. I didn't tell anyone, not even my mom. He didn't take the main road home. He went through back streets, cutting across empty fields, until we reached the edge of town. That's where I saw his house. It didn't look like a normal home. The windows were boarded up, the wood looked old, and there was no sound inside. No TV, no laughter, just silence. I was about to leave when he suddenly turned around. I froze, ready for him to yell at me. But he didn't. He just looked at me and said, you shouldn't be here yet. They'll see you. Before I could ask what he meant, the front door creaked open. A man and a woman stepped out. At least, I thought they were his parents. But something was not looking right. Their smiles stretched across their faces, but their eyes looked empty. One of them said, you brought her, good. They led me inside. And the moment I stepped in, my stomach dropped. The living room had too many chairs around a single table. There were ropes on the floor, and strange carvings on the wooden walls. The air felt heavy, like the whole house was breathing. The boy stood near me, his face blank. I didn't know if he wanted me there, or if he regretted it. But the way his family stared at me, I felt like they weren't going to let me leave. Then I heard my mom's voice, outside, calling my name. Apparently, she happened to see me entering the household from afar. The family froze. Nobody moved. And then, the boy leaned closer and whispered, please go. And don't come back. I didn't wait. I bolted out the door, ran to my mom, and clung to her arm, crying too hard to explain anything. When I looked back, the house didn't look the same anymore. The windows weren't boarded, the wood wasn't rotting. It looked like a perfectly normal home. The next day, when I went to school, his seat was empty. The teacher simply said, he transferred again. I was in 6th grade at my elementary school when I first noticed him. He was the new security guard. Nothing about him screamed danger. Plain khaki uniform, a scuffed cap, a jacket he seemed to forget to take off, but there was something wrong in the way he looked at me. Not the casual, friendly look some adults give kids. It felt like waiting. Like his eyes were tuned to me and only me. At first I tried to tell myself it was nothing. People watched everyone sometimes. Maybe he liked the way I lined up for homeroom. Maybe he was bored. But the more I tried to ignore it, the easier it was to notice. He wasn't watching other kids. He watched me. During recess I'd catch him at the edge of the playground, pretending to check a gate latch or sweep a path. If I passed the school office he would be standing there, hands folded, head tilted like a bird listening for a sound. When our eyes met he'd give that smile, the kind that didn't reach his eyes, thin and too careful. My stomach would flip and I would walk faster. It got worse outside of school. I'd see him in places that didn't make sense. One afternoon I passed him at the corner shop near the bus stop. He wasn't buying anything. He just leaned against the display and watched me push my cart. Another time I saw him across from the small park I cut through on my way home. sitting on a bench with his hands folded, watching the swings as if he were waiting for somebody to step off them. Once, even, on the school field during a weekend fundraiser, when I was with my mom, he was there, like a shadow in the crowd, same crooked smile when our eyes caught each other. He started saying things, too. Quiet at first, words almost meant for himself. "Keep to your routine," he murmured one morning as I walked past. "Be careful," he said another day, with that same small smile. They sounded harmless until you imagined all the ways they weren't. I didn't tell anyone. Telling felt like admitting something that would make adults laugh it off. I kept my head down, walked with a friend, chose different routes when I could. But he always seemed to be one step ahead, there when I cut through the park, there at the bus stop, there in the parking lot when the afternoon sun made everything look safe. The night it really came to a head, my dad was working late and I was home alone. I had a math worksheet and a half-eaten bowl of cereal at the kitchen table. The house hummed with ordinary noises, the refrigerator, the neighbor's radio, the soft squeak of the thermostat. Ordinary comfort. Then there was a knock at the front door. Soft and polite, I froze. My mouth went dry. Maybe Dad had forgotten his keys, I thought stupidly. Maybe it was a neighbor. The knock came again. Louder this time, sharp against the wood. I went to the door slowly, like it might be a trick. "Who is it?" I called, trying to sound calm. There was a small pause. Then a voice, low and flat. "It's me. From school. The security guard." My heart dropped. For a second the house seemed to tilt. I held the edge of the table so hard my knuckles hurt. I fumbled for my phone and hit my dad's number with shaking hands. "Dad," I whispered as soon as he answered. "There's someone, he's at the front door." "Who?" His voice was distant, he was probably still at work. "The guard, from school. He's here." I could hear my own pulse in my ears. There was a rustle, a quiet curse. "Stay where you are. Don't open that door." His voice was a mix of disbelief and speed, but calm. "Lock the deadbolt. Call me back if he doesn't leave." As he was asking questions, the knocking grew louder, hard, fast, more insistent. "Open up." The voice called, this time louder and closer. "It's me. I just want to talk." The words wrenched at the door as if hands might try to force it. My voice came out thin. "Dad, he's knocking. He says he's from school." "Who?" My dad snapped, because at first he'd pictured a neighbor or something small, and this needed to be registered. I heard papers shuffling, the clock of a distant office through the line. "He's the guard, from my school. He keeps." The sentence fell apart as the knocking turned into a battery, each hit making the windows tremble. I could feel the house listening. "Don't open. Do not open that door." "Got it?" My dad said, now into shorthand, the way adults do when they try to take control. "I'm leaving now. Don't answer, whatever he says." The knocking crescendoed to a terrifying rhythm. "Open the door. I'll make it quick. It'll be fine." The voice was strange now, less a man at a doorstep and more a thing trying on lines like clothes. I crouched by the table, phone pressed against my ear, back against the kitchen counter. Tears blurred my vision, but I could hear every knock, every syllable. Minutes stretched and folded. Then, as suddenly as the storm had come, silence fell, so absolute it was almost a sound itself. My dad's headlights washed through the blinds a minute later. He burst through the front door, keys still in his hand, a look on his face that made the room feel safer and smaller all at once. We checked the porch, the walkway, the curb. We found nothing. No footprints, no scuffed wood, no sign that anyone had been there at all. Not even a fallen leaf where someone could have stood. He never came back to the school. Everyone pretended it was nothing. Teachers moved on, the guard at the gate changed faces, and I learned to sit in the cafeteria where I could see the doors. But the way he watched me stayed like a film on the back of my eyelids. Sometimes, on a quiet street at dusk, I'll glance over my shoulder and feel that old, thin smile hovering in the air, like a memory that didn't belong to me. "Nothing happened," my dad would say later, trying to make sense of the night. He was right. nothing happened. But for a long while after, nothing felt like a promise and a threat at the same time. During my grade 4 days, our homeroom teacher, Mrs. Porter, got sick. We thought we'd have an easy week. Instead, the school brought in a substitute. His name was Mr. Grayson. At first, he seemed normal, just another adult with a briefcase and a stack of papers. But the longer he stayed, the more off he felt. He didn't write on the board much. He'd just sit on the edge of the desk, staring at us like he was memorizing every face. Sometimes, when someone asked a question, he would answer with another question, strange ones that didn't fit. Like, do you ever feel watched at night? Or what's the scariest dream you've ever had? When he called roll, he said the names slowly, almost like he's tasting them. When he said mine, he lingered, like it meant more to him than it should. Little things in class made me uncomfortable. Once, he kept me behind after recess just to ask what my favorite color was. Another time, I caught him watching me through the narrow window in the classroom door as I walked past in the hallway. His expression never changed, just that same thin, stiff smile, but the strangest moment came during lunch. The whole class was eating, the cafeteria was loud as usual. Suddenly, the noise dipped for me, like someone turned the volume down. I glanced toward the door, and there he was, standing in the doorway, not moving, just staring at our table. Nobody else seemed to notice. Then, when I blinked, he was gone. I tried to shake it off. He was a teacher, after all. Teachers couldn't be dangerous, right? One afternoon, when school ended, he offered to walk me home. I was only 7. I didn't see the danger. To me, he was still the teacher. So I agreed, but we didn't head toward my street. We walked farther, past blocks I'd never been to, until we stopped in front of an old and almost crumbling apartment building. Inside, the halls smelled damp and the wallpaper peeled in long strips. His apartment was small and dark, with curtains drawn tight against the daylight. "Make yourself at home," he said, his smile stretched too wide. Then he disappeared into another room. Minutes passed, 5, then 10. I couldn't hear anything. No footsteps, no movement, just silence. I called his name softly, no answer. When I tried the front door, it wouldn't budge, it was already locked. As I was looking for an exit, I found some pictures pasted on a board with a big bold X drawn across them with red paint that seemed like blood. I was shocked that I couldn't move at that moment. Then I heard it, his voice. Not calm anymore, but furious. He shouted my name from somewhere deeper inside the apartment. "Where are you?" he roared. "Come out now." My heart pounded as I ducked behind the couch, then into a shadowy corner. His voice echoed through the rooms, closer, then farther, like he was circling, hunting me. The sound of drawers slamming, heavy footsteps, his voice getting sharper, angrier. "You can't hide from me." I covered my mouth to keep from crying out, and then, bang. The front door shook. Another one came, then I heard voices from outside. The lock snapped, and the door burst open. A school security guard rushed in, with another boy from my class behind him. They pulled me out before Mr. Grayson even reappeared. I never saw what was in that apartment, or what he wanted from me. And I never saw him again, but sometimes, even now, I wake at night hearing my name, shouted from the shadows, just like he did that day.